Hi, I'm Scott Garibay, and this is part of my Garibay Technology series. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about risk-based testing, right? So when you build a test suite to test software, you are going to need to build, let's say I own a shoe company, Garibay Shoe Company, and we sell shoes online, right? So I want to test that you can choose 3 pairs of sneakers and put them into your shopping cart, right? So how am I going to build a test suite around this functionality, right? Well, one of the things that you need to understand about writing a test suite is keep it simple, stupid is dead. I go by kick. Keep it complex, knucklehead. We live in a highly complex world, and when it comes to software, there's no more simple, right? And the reason for this is integration, right? So any software that you build today has to work with your own company's systems. It has to work with vendor systems. It has to work with non-associated entity systems, companies like Microsoft or Google or Mozilla, right? They build web browsers that your site is going to be on, right? So it is just so insanely complex to build software today that you really need. So one of the things that you need to learn is when you're going to write your test suite, you can no longer write all the tests you need to write, right? Because you can't fully test almost any software now. The permutations are just too high, right? So if you try to write every single test that you need to write, you're not going to be able to do it because just by integration testing, regression testing, functional testing, if you think about how many ways software can test, how many ways they can be fooled by people who are trying to do fraud, if you think about just all the different permutations, all the different browsers that go in, there's no way to do all the tests you can run anymore. So you have to choose which tests you're going to run. So how do you choose which tests are important and which aren't? The way you do this is with risk-based testing. Very important, right? So risk-based testing works on 3 different types of criteria, right? So the way you choose which tests you write and which tests you execute is by risk. Whatever is riskiest, you test it first and you test it most thoroughly, right? The way you determine what those risks are is the 3 criteria. And here's the 3 criteria. The 3 criteria are complexity, criticality, and frequency. Okay? So how complex is the software that you're building? How complex is the functionality that you're building, right? So selecting 3 shoes is less complex than adding them to a shopping cart, okay? Or even beyond that, sending the transaction to PayPal. That's pretty complex, right? The code for that is more complex than selecting something and putting it into a shopping cart. The more complex your functionality is, the more tests you'll write, and the earlier you're going to test that, right? Then additionally, so that is complexity. Criticality. How critical is it that it works, right? So one of the things is like, let's say that, when somebody buys a shoe from Garibay Shoe Company, they're going to get 10 points for each shoe they bought. And every 100 points, they get a 10% discount. They get a 10% coupon to use on their next pair of shoes, right? Now, that is a reward functionality, right? That is far less critical than purchase functionality, right? If I don't give them their points for their purchases, they're going to be upset about that. But if I take their money and I don't send them their shoe, a completed purchase, that functionality is absolutely critical, right? So it's more critical than rewards functionality, right? All right. So, and then last one is the frequency, right? So whatever the customer uses more frequently is higher risk, right? So logon is super high risk functionality. You've got to make sure that your ability to log on to the site is incredibly good, right? So they're going to use that every single time an established customer goes onto your site. They're going to log on into there so they can add things to their cart and so they can do purchases, right? So that's more important than again that rewards functionality, right? More used more frequently. Actually, what's a good example? Actually, you know what? They're going to log on to your site probably 4 or 5 times a year to look at shoes. They may only purchase once. So log on is more frequently used than purchase, right? So that is, so again, those criteria are criticality, complexity, and frequency. And this is how you build a risk-based test suite. This is, again, a testing basic, right? So when you build your test suite, you want to be thinking about this. And thank you very much.